Welcome to this Adult Education Senior University session, The Empowered Caregiver, Building Foundations of Caregiving. It's going to be presented today by Linda Curley. Linda is a Purdue Extension educator as well as Alzheimer's Association community educator. Thank you so much for being with us today, Linda.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So as Amanda said, we're going to be talking today about building foundations of caregiving. This is number one in a series of 5 empowered caregiver sessions that I'm going to present today. Just know that we do have the rest of them on the calendar for the future, so be looking for those, because if this is important to you, if this is a role you currently have, or in fact are a caregiver in general, I think this information is quite important to us. As was mentioned, my name is Linda Curley. I'm the Health and Human Sciences educator in Lake County for Purdue Extension, but I've partnered with the Alzheimer's Association simply because this might be astonishing news to you, but Lake County, Indiana has the highest incidence for Alzheimer's and dementia than any other county in the state of Indiana. So as I do a bit of a needs assessment, when I do some programming for the community, this is an area that I feel is important because so many folks are affected by it, whether they actually have a diagnosis, whether they have a family history, or whether they are a caregiver. So we really want to talk to all of you today in terms of caregiving responsibilities that you might have and how perhaps the Alzheimer's Association can help. So we'll move through the slides today. So again, here are all the other topics that we do have on the calendar, but I certainly want you to see that this is number one on our list of empowered caregiver sessions that we will move through. Okay, so we want today to explain the relationship changes that may happen over time while you are caregiving. We also want to describe 5 areas of a person-centered care approach. This is an approach that you may have heard of before. Certainly our hospitals are very much into thinking about person-centered care. So hopefully this term, if it's new or not to you, we can help to navigate what this means and perhaps can help you in your caregiving responsibilities. We also want to talk about identifying possible members that in your community, in your circle of friends and family that can be possibly part of your caregiving support team. This is not something that we should think of just in the now, but oftentimes our needs change over the experience we have as caregivers. So be thinking about perhaps what you're needing now and what you might be needing in the future. We will look at all of those things and perhaps think about folks that you might not have thought can help you. And then we're going to list some action steps. We do have information that was provided to you, the PowerPoint slides, as well as an activity today. So we'll be talking about that on a future slide. Okay, so let's talk about this introduction of who is considered a caregiver. And as you look at the slide, maybe a friend or a family member can in fact provide some time or help or care during the course of support for a loved one. Maybe you're picking up groceries. Maybe you're filling prescriptions for somebody. Maybe you're sitting for an hour with someone so that someone else has some relief providing care. All of those folks, anyone who provides care to a family member or a friend, even if you don't have formal training, we would categorize you as a caregiver. And so perhaps someone that you're caring for has Alzheimer's or dementia, or maybe you're caring for them because they need other support. You fall within this category. So we also want to talk about, preparing for your role in this caregiver role. And so we want to talk a little bit about how important it is for you to even take care of yourself as you provide support to others, because taking care of yourself can lead to a better experience overall for you as well as the person that you're providing care to. So we want you to keep that in mind as you move forward through the presentation today. So I'll ask you, if you can, to put your answer in the chat box here. And those of you that are in the room here, you might look at this screen and see what you think the answer would be here. So someone who helps a person living with dementia with everyday tasks like grocery shopping, managing doctor's appointments, they can all be considered a caregiver. Is your answer true or false? Go ahead and pop that in the chat box. Thank you for your answer inside in here. So if you answered true, yes, caregivers help with activities of daily living, and they provide even emotional support. But they can also take care of tasks like managing a person's money. In fact, this is one of the first concerns that lots of caregivers have, that the person who may be diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's, they may in fact be late paying bills. They might have difficulty managing money, and these are some of the first signs that you might see. Maybe you're making doctor's appointments and taking people to doctor's appointments. These are all things that a caregiver might do. So this list here of all these different things that folks do, we've mentioned a couple of these things thus far, but just remember that the help that you might need from others might also include some of these things. Let's say you're not really great at taking care of money matters, but you have a son or a daughter that is highly invested in the care of this individual. And so you might say, can you help me manage money? Or maybe you're very good at doing things like helping with daily living tasks, but maybe transportation is an issue for you. So even someone you bring in to help that provides transportation can in fact help you with caregiving tasks. So as we go through the presentation today, I hope you're thinking about the things you currently do as a caregiver, but how many things you might need help with, especially in the future, as in fact the disease might be more troublesome to you. What do you need from folks? Okay. All right, so I want to give you some stats here. You can see on the screen that more than 6 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's. And more than 11 million folks are providing unpaid care to those that have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Now, these are the folks we know about. These are the folks that really do report this information, so that number could be considerably higher. Okay. Family members, friends, or other unpaid caregivers provide the majority of help to older adults in society. So that's why these presentations are very important to folks who are looking for resources, looking for emotional support, and trying to understand the disease better. Family members can have different caregiver roles. I kind of mentioned that in the last slide. Maybe see where your strengths are, what you can manage, and bring folks around the table who you trust, who won't be judgmental, who will help rather than hurt the situation, and maybe share their strengths. And although 64% say caregiving is stressful, 92% say that it is rewarding. And so we want you to be able to go through the caregiving role, understanding that we know it's stressful, but let's see where we can find some support for you. So changes caregivers may experience. We want to think about the special challenges that you might have depending on the situation that you're in. And sometimes by knowing these, you might feel more prepared about what care is needed for the individual you are providing care to. So there are a list here on the screen, and we'll look at each of these together. So taking on new roles, maybe the relationship changes that you're experiencing with the individual who has been diagnosed with the disease. And finally, we want to talk a little bit about intimacy, because that changes as well. So What can you do when you are taking on new roles? You might find yourself as a person with their cognitive abilities as they start to decline. They may no longer be able to do certain tasks. For example, they may have trouble putting their dishes away, folding laundry, managing money, thinking about legal matters that they might have at hand. So it's helpful to have an honest conversation about future plans. What can you put in place early? What can you do early so that as the person who is maybe newly diagnosed with the disease can have conversations about what their plan for the future is in their mind? Maybe you'll have to talk about what that looks like. And then to know that this plan could change in the future is something that you want to kind of recognize early on so that when the time comes to make changes, you won't feel so guilty because you've had some conversations with this individual about what they had hoped this plan would look like for them in the future. The next slide says relationship changes. So some social isolation is common among caregivers. You might find that you have less time for your family or friends. You might also find that you're pulling back a little from friends socially, which can be difficult for folks. You might also have trouble understanding the disease and the changes within this individual and how to manage that. So what can you do in these situations? We really would like you to reach out. We want you to reach out certainly to friends that you value their support and friendship. We also want you to reach out to family members who may in fact be important to bring to the table in support in some type of caregiving role, whether it's now or in the future. And then consider inviting new friends or people that you haven't thought about to come around the table to provide support as well. So maybe there's a community entity, a not-for-profit. Maybe there is a local hospital that's offering support to caregivers. These are the things that we kind of want you to bring together so that when you need folks, you will in fact have them. We're going to talk a little bit about intimacy because that does change for folks. As the disease progresses, you may not be able to have the same emotional or physical intimacy you once shared with the person living with dementia. And you might have some great sadness over these changes. And really know that you're not being selfish when you feel these feelings. It's typical for people living with Alzheimer's disease to have a change in their drive in terms of their intimacy. Depression, physical illness, and even some medications can cause like a disinterest in folks that perhaps had a very sexual life. And so oftentimes this is difficult. So what can you do? Find new ways to be intimate. Maybe it is this idea of just holding hands and hugging more, doing activities together side by side, like listening to your favorite music, going for a walk together, and certainly talking about or sharing favorite memories together as well. So let's listen to this caregiver who has an idea about what she did with her dad in order to make a better connection.
When I think about caregiving for my dad, who's been living with Alzheimer's disease for 13 years, my expectation is not that my dad is going to remember my birthday or know how old I am. But I'm pretty confident that if I show up at his place in his memory care assisted living with some cake, light a candle, and tell him, "Dad, today is my birthday," he's gonna smile, give me a hug, and want to enjoy some cake with me. And so that gives me a glimpse into that love and that connection that's still there between us as father and daughter. I've had to realign my expectations, but that has allowed me to be more present and available for these happy and connective moments between us.
So we're going to move on to this person-centered care approach, and we want to discuss a little bit about what it means and how we can achieve it. Okay, so a person-centered care approach focuses on the individual and their specific needs. It involves using what you already know about the individual. So what are their likes? What are their dislikes? And what are their abilities for possible care? Now, as I mentioned earlier, all of these things can change over time. So you may think a person likes something and then later on that's not really working for you. So it is this idea of kind of constantly changing this to say, I know this person likes to eat this kind of thing, or they like to do puzzles with me, or whatever the case may be. But just know that sometimes this approach changes over time. So we kind of have to keep our antenna up to make sure that we are thinking about all of these things. So there are a number of benefits to using a person-centered care approach for both the person living with dementia and the caregiver. There are often fewer dementia-related behaviors. So when we think about a person that might feel agitated or they might feel depressed, oftentimes when we use a person-centered approach, these might be less evident simply because of the fact that you are thinking about things that a person traditionally likes to do and how can you approach the situation that way. Oftentimes, it can increase your satisfaction in being a caregiver. It can certainly improve your relationship with the person living with the disease, and perhaps you can provide them with a better quality of life when the things in their life are more about the things that they usually enjoy doing. And like I said, these things can change over time, so sometimes you really have to be in tune to what's going on with this individual. So here are some strategies for us to use when we're thinking about a person-centered approach to caregiving. You might want to use your knowledge again of the person's likes, their dislikes, and their preferences. So even food choices, instead of asking them whether they want, do you want mac and cheese tonight? How about steak? Or maybe we'll make hamburgers, or do you want to go out? All of that information together is difficult for a person who is already struggling cognitively. So maybe two choices of things they normally like to eat already. And so as long as it's something that's simplistic, you can manage it, whether it's food that you're bringing into the house or food that you're cooking yourself. Lots of choices might be difficult, but if you give them two choices for things they traditionally like to eat anyway, that might be an easier way for you to get through that dinner hour. Connect in the moment. So let's say you're very busy with something and the person is looking for your time and attention or asking you some questions, perhaps just kind of letting it go and really focusing on that individual for the moment, and then going on with the things you need to do, simply because that person might become a little less agitated if you actually give them a little bit of your time. Because you can say, what's important here, to listen a little bit or to organize that closet? Again, I'd rather listen than organize anyway, but again, that kind of thing where you might give someone a little bit of time. And then focus on the relationship with the person that you have. So again, if this is, the love of your life that's been your partner forever, focusing on what you love about that relationship versus what particularly is going on in the moment. So really kind of embrace those kinds of things and do some fun things that you have traditionally liked to do in the past. So we're going to break this down a little bit further for you. Okay, so we have these 5 strategies. Again, use your knowledge of the person. An individual living with Alzheimer's is more than their diagnosis. So again, try to look at the person rather than what is going on cognitively with this individual. Connect in the moment, help the person take on or be part of meaningful activities. Sometimes people will fold clothes not the way that we traditionally fold clothes, and then we get all upset about it. Have a person be next to you folding clothes the way they know how to fold clothes in that moment. And if they're not folded correctly, who cares? Right? So we sometimes have to let things go a little bit. Okay, focus on the relationship that you've had in the past with this individual. Remember all the great times you've had together and how many great times you can continually build. And then really create a supportive environment. What we mean by that is you may think that bringing the family around this individual to have an important conversation is good for everyone else in the room, but what can the person who is diagnosed with the disease handle in that moment? Is it bringing lots of folks in that they might not recognize right then? Or is it maybe having a one-on-one conversation that you can even tape record and then share with those that you wanted to have in the room together at the time? So how can you create a supportive environment for that individual? Okay, so again, you know the person better than anyone in most cases. So you might even need to learn a little bit more about this individual as you provide the best care possible. So keep that in mind. Use your knowledge of the person. Again, do they like certain foods? Do they dislike certain noises? Do they like to have a fan on that's giving them a little bit of breeze? Or is that irritating to them? Do they like to be hot or warm or whatever the case is? These are things for you to keep top of mind. Also, keep in mind their hobbies and interests might change over a period of time. So maybe reintroducing some things. I usually tell folks about the library here. Maybe you want to go to the library and take out a game that you've never seen before and see if that's something that will work. Maybe you'd like to bring a book home from the library and just read softly and quietly to this individual while you're having a little bit of a break yourself as you're reading through this book. And then talk to others who are close to the individual living with dementia, and they too may be able to help you in this area. Connecting in the moment. Again, I've said this, use the moment to provide the right support and to maybe take time and think about things versus saying, I've got all of these things to do today and I don't have time for this. That might be the most important thing that will keep you feeling like you're providing the proper care to the individual. So connecting in the moment, focus on feelings, not facts. If a topic bothers or upsets a person that you're caring for, switch to a different topic. Don't continue the conversation because it's only going to provide further irritation. Help make activities meaningful. So every experience and interaction is a chance for you to connect with the person living with dementia. So you see the picture here, they're just brushing their teeth together. So instead of kind of helping the person in the restroom and saying, get your teeth brushed, it's time to brush your teeth, maybe we're going to do it together this morning. And perhaps that will send some cues. It will certainly provide you this normalcy in the household, like we're brushing teeth together, and that's fine too. Okay, make sure that activities are meaningful and they have purpose for the person. You want the person to feel joy and comfort, especially as the dementia advances. And sometimes going with the flow is an important way to do things. So remember, if you plan ahead and all those things kind of break down on you, that sometimes it's just a good thing for yourself as well as the person you're caring for to just say, I know I've planned ahead a little bit here, but right now we have to be in the moment and I'm going to embrace what's happening right now. We're both going to take a little breather and we'll move on in the future. And then focus on any kind of supportive relationships. This is for you as well as for the person that needs care, okay? So again, putting that person before the task, be flexible and supportive. But if you need someone to be supportive of you, remember that that is just as important in this instance as well. And then focus on supportive relationships again. So do activities with them that rather than for them. So the brushing of the teeth together, the folding of clothes together, maybe even preparing a meal to have somebody do something that certainly isn't dangerous to them to do, but a simple task that may make folks feel like they're still part of the day. Putting napkins around the table for those that will be seated, something very simplistic if that's where a person is at within the disease. Let's listen to an expert here as he provides more information on this topic.
Caregiving can be difficult, but each day presents us with opportunities and challenges. So it's really important to celebrate those small wins, like providing just the right amount of support to have somebody successfully get dressed by themselves or brush their teeth or even set the table for dinner. Everything that happens throughout the day can be considered an activity. Little things like setting the table or going for a walk and talking about family, or even spontaneously dancing to some music are all things that happen throughout the day and time well spent.
And then lastly, creating a supportive environment. It helps this person feel successful, feel independent. So if they are in maybe a room with a lot of shadows, maybe the carpeting is very busy. Maybe their favorite chair is hard to get to these days. Sometimes even just reorganizing the room that they spend the most time in so that they can feel like those shadows aren't kind of lurking. The pattern on the rug isn't making them dizzy as they try to walk across the carpet. Maybe letting more light into the room is something that they would prefer. So think about how we can successfully keep them independent as long as possible. And sometimes that means that we have to, change up the environment. So what does a supportive environment look like to the person? Early on, you might be able to have these kinds of discussions. Maybe you need to think about home security. What about bed alarms? What about cameras in the household? What about changing lock systems so that a person can't just wander aimlessly if in fact you're busy doing something else? So what about your environment would even make you feel a little more safe as you're providing care to an individual? Keep their favorite items easily seen, easily in reach, those things that they typically find very comforting to them. Again, a calm and soothing atmosphere. So even, the holidays are coming up, and for this individual, for you to have a house full of individuals that want to come and see Grandpa because it's the holidays, it might be a bit of an overload. So how can you kind of transition to say, maybe we'll come and see you for a little while, and then we need to head back home again, whatever that looks like for you. And again, make sure you're taking care of yourself. Build in some breaks for yourself. Maybe there's a neighbor who will sit with this individual for a little while. I know in the community here, I do a lot of programming, and there's a group of guys that used to golf together for years, and now one of the gentlemen is having trouble with dementia, and so they'll stop by once a week and sit around and chat with him, knowing that he's going through the disease, but it's their time to come and say hello and give their caregiver friend a break as well. So how do you build a supportive team? We really want to talk about that a little bit because there is importance in a team, especially kind of a multi-functioning team. Who should you include? And then tips on developing that supportive team is what we're going to focus on next, okay? So knowing that a supportive team surrounding you can help you to get more done each day. It can help you stay active in your own life and take care of yourself, and it can certainly lower your stress levels. Now, I don't want you to think that a supportive team has to be an individual. It can be a hospital program. It can be like locally in Lake County, we have the PACE program out of Franciscan Alliance. It could be that you are going to go to a support group for yourself, but there may even be a support group for your loved one or the person that you're caring for, depending on where they are in the stage of the disease. So remember that it doesn't necessarily have to be a person that's providing you support. Know that you want to rely on someone you can trust, though, okay? So if, in fact, this individual is non-judgmental of what's going on, they really do care about this individual, they want to help you as a team member, then bring them on. But if you've got somebody that's going to be causing kind of some trouble, like, I don't believe this is happening. What's that? A person that can be combative, that's really not a person that you find helpful to you, certainly, if they're kind of dismissing the disease because they too might be in denial of what's going on. A care team can change over time as the disease progresses. So just know that maybe the care team becomes a little more professional. Maybe somebody is providing support, like I said, at the local hospital. Maybe it's a day facility that's providing support. So who can these people be that can be helpful to you? On the slide you see here, family members, close friends, neighbors, or others that can help you with daily activities. We are in the age of delivery to your home. So years ago, it used to be that if I needed something, I had to go out and get it. Perhaps you want to get familiar with some folks that provide deliveries to your home. I'm not going to mention the name of the most common deliverer of things these days, but certainly maybe that's a way for someone to provide support to you. You don't even know this person, but they're delivering groceries, or they're delivering prescriptions, or they're delivering whatever else you need for care within your household. Doctors, neurologists, counselors, other specialists. Remember that I'm here on behalf of the Alzheimer's Association, and we will look at some resources that they can provide you. Don't dismiss your faith-based community, those people that you may attend church with, or those folks that are supportive to you in your community for maybe some food needs that you have, supplemental food needs as well. Community members who deliver meals, like our Meals on Wheels program here in Northwest Indiana. And also we have lots of folks who provide transportation. So if I'm feeling like I'm getting older and I don't feel great in my driving skills, but we have a doctor's appointment we need to get to, perhaps you want to use a transportation app to call a car to your home, or perhaps there's a train or a bus within the area. And again, you can stay connected to ALZ Connected Online, which is an online community member service that folks who feel comfortable talking to one another through this online platform are supportive to individuals who find comfort that way as well. Tips on developing this support team. So first of all, think about the kind of help you need. Do I need somebody to come in for an hour? Am I working part-time and I actually need somebody to come in for 7 hours? What time do I need somebody to come in? Maybe I'm working shift work and I need somebody during the middle of the night. Maybe I need somebody to deliver, like I said, groceries, or I'm not really great at money management, so maybe I need a family member or a friend that can help me with that. Talk with each of the people that you need to have on your team. And I always say to people to be very specific as you talk to them, because they may be feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't give this as much time as I'd like. But other times they might say, oh yeah, I'm available on Saturday. In fact, when I'm grocery shopping, just give me a list and I'll get what you need too. So those kinds of things are important. So be very specific. And in fact, if the person can't provide you with some kind of support now, perhaps they can in the future. So maybe their schedule is very busy now, but they say, boy, in the wintertime, my schedule really frees up. Or maybe they'll say, hey, when I'm doing my sidewalk, when it snows, I'll get your sidewalk too. Those kinds of things, okay? And don't take it personally if someone can't help you. Perhaps they're dealing with some things in their own household where they have to provide care. Always show your appreciation and thank them, because they will be more apt to do more with you or for you. Sometimes I'll say even to friends or family members, if you want to come over and help me with this, I'll cook dinner and we'll be able to get those two taken care of at once. So again, what's the give and take that you can offer here as well? So I want you to think about this right now. You can, if you want to put these names in the chat box, or if you want to be very general and say my son, my daughter, my grandchildren, whatever. But who are two people that you would want to be part of your support team, whether you're a caregiver now or whether you think you may be a caregiver in the future, who are those two people? Write that down for yourself. I also want you to think about what type of care you might need. So examples of this are that emotional support. Do I need somebody to just maybe go out and have a drink one evening, or maybe a coffee one morning? Maybe I need to talk with somebody about what's going on, provide transportation, maybe pick up medications, helping you with general duties or general care duties. I would hope that if you're in the process of building a team, or you're thinking about a team for the future, you've done this activity for yourself. Today, I've only asked you to think about 2 individuals for a support team, but you know that this can encompass many people. Think about who's in your family circle that, in your extended family circle who can be important to you. Think about your own health. If I am in failing health and I'm caring for somebody else, who else do I need for the future if my support may be for myself as well? Okay. So we do want to talk about caring for yourself. Dementia caregivers are less likely to experience anxiety and depression than other caregivers. Is that true or false? Yes, you're right. We've got some folks in the room here, so I wanted to acknowledge that it is false. You are much more likely, if you're caring for someone with dementia, to be more anxious, to be more depressed, to have more financial obligations that you can experience that are difficult for you, especially managing this type of thing, and also some physical difficulties as well. So as we do some research, we realize that this is part of the equation as well. So we encourage you to know your warning signs. And I am not going to hit each one of these buttons on the slide here, but I want you to think about a few of these that may be very relatable to you. As I mentioned earlier, some folks are in denial. Oh, he's fine. He just every once in a while has a little memory lapse. When in fact you may have been given a diagnosis, but you're still in that denial stage. Okay. Maybe you're feeling angry that the person that you knew your whole life is really changing before your eyes, and you're angry that this is happening. Maybe you're feeling anxiety or depression, sleep problems, a lack of focus, or maybe you've got some health problems yourself that you're dealing with. I know that I've been in the community before where people have said, I have so many health problems myself, and I'm trying to manage someone else's health problems, and it's gotten very overwhelming to me. Okay, so we want you to take care of yourself, and we also want you to pay attention to signs and symptoms. Things like blurred vision, stomach irritation, high blood pressure, changes in your appetite, and sleeplessness. We really do want you to talk to your healthcare provider if you're noticing these are new symptoms to you. Oftentimes I speak with folks in the community who say, as a caregiver, when I go to the doctor, and if the doctor knows that I'm caregiving, one of the first things they ask me is about my stress level, about my anxiety, about my depression, because the numbers are very high for folks that are dealing with this in their everyday life. So look at those changes that may be happening within you, emotionally as well as physically, and make sure you're sharing that information with your healthcare provider. Find ways that can provide you relaxation. I kind of gave you a hint about this a few minutes ago. There are folks that love to read. They just love to read. They find so much comfort in sitting down with a great book and reading. Perhaps you can read aloud to the person you're caring for one of your favorite books, knowing that it provides you with some support and emotional support anyway. Breathing exercises and meditation. There's lots of things you can find on your phone that can be helpful to you in terms of helping you to regulate your breathing and different meditation techniques that are out there. Maybe you want to go to a local yoga class at your local park district or library where you can get away for an hour to do this, see other people, get out of your environment, as long as you've got someone to provide support to the person you're caring for. And then again, pay attention to your new symptoms. Is your blood pressure getting a little more out of range? What about your eating habits? Are they kind of sporadic? Are you eating more, eating less? Are you getting headaches from anxiety and depression and all that's going on in your life? Make sure you're paying attention to those signs and symptoms. In terms of taking care of yourself, there are some things that we want you to think about as well in terms of being realistic. So grieve the loss of the individual that may be sitting in front of you. Grieve the loss of some of the things that you miss that you used to do. And then try to move to focusing on those things that you're enjoying now. Maybe you're enjoying new grandchildren in your life. Maybe you're enjoying a few things that you're able to do together with this individual that you still really cherish. Always know that you're doing the best you can. This is a biggie for folks. You are making a difference for this individual. And even though there are some wins and losses every single day, always know that you are doing the best you can. And that's as good as you can get. Take care of your health. Visit the doctor regularly. Listen to your body. Take a break. Know that you're only as good as your own health. So if you need to take a break, look for some respite care options. Maybe there are some day services that are affordable to you or your insurance will provide support for. Again, I encourage you to think about some local community support. There's a CoAction, which is in Lake County here, and they have some support staff there that can help you find resources. I am going to talk about resources from the association, as well as I did mention the PACE program earlier. That's not all encompassing of every bit of support that's out there, but I know I've heard some wonderful things about those options. So remember to get help when you need it so that you can be more supportive. Let's listen to this caregiver. She talks a little bit about caring for her mother.
The advice I would have for others about caregiving is to be kind to yourself, be gentle to yourself, allow yourself to make some errors. Don't judge yourself so hard. Take good care of yourself, eat well, exercise, interact with people outside of the household. Do things that are just for you. Go out to eat sometimes. Go out to eat with a friend or maybe alone. But remember that you have to be the best you in order to take care of your loved one. So it is very, very important that you take care of yourself.
Yeah, folks often say, oh, I feel like it's so selfish of me to go out and do such and such. Please know that, again, you're doing the best you can and you're only as good as you are when you care for yourself. Okay, so just remember that as you think about your days, as you provide care. Okay, so another activity that we have, and again, we won't do this here today, but I do want to go through the materials with you a little bit. This is called managing caregiver stress. And so much of the information that I currently or already spoke to you about is on this document. And as I scroll down through the document, it talks about your physical health and reducing stress there, your mental health, taking advantage of all your local resources, as well as you can see the Alzheimer's Association has popped in their 1-800 number that, again, folks that I have had in my past presentations have been very impressed with the information that's provided to them through the 1-800 number. These are live folks that are masters trained, and they really will help you get to the information you need. I've had folks who have said, I was in the dark with all of this until I was able to reach out to the Alzheimer's Association to provide me with some kind of a roadmap. And so I really encourage encourage you to do that. Again, a little bit about putting a care team together for you. Again, look at all these warning signs. These were on a previous slide. So look through all these and what boxes apply to you. And underneath that, it says, I can tell I'm feeling stressed when I write that down. And then I need to address these issues with my care provider as well. So who is my physician, and how can I bring this sheet in with me and talk about some of these issues that I'm having? What about your mental health care provider? And that can be one and the same, certainly. We really need to take the stigma out of folks not going to the doctor to talk about anxiety and depression. So please know that if you're physically hurt or emotionally hurt or mentally feeling some stress, these are all things to bring to your healthcare provider without feeling anything other than, I need some support here, okay? And then how can you take advantage of some resources? So this is a document that the Alzheimer's Association has provided here today, and we certainly hope you take the time to look at it further and in fact, bring it to your healthcare provider if you've ticked a lot of boxes on this sheet, so you can say, listen, I've been really thinking about this, and these are some areas where I need your help and support. We know that there are plenty of benefits to being a caregiver, and we'd love for you to hear from this team who is providing care, and maybe you'll recognize some of the things that you do in the words that they have for us.
My mom loves to hug. You know, we're huggers. And so my mom is very much, you know, and even now she will, you know, they're getting into bed at night. You gonna give me a kiss tonight? Can I get a kiss? And she'll kiss me. But often what keeps me pumped and what keeps me going as well, my mom tells me, I don't care what type of day or what she's done, she often says to me, I love you so much. Thank you for taking care of me. You know, and that means, especially there's sometimes when it's been a hard, long day. And at the end of that day, you know, she'll look up and she'll say, thank you so much. I appreciate you for taking care of me. And that makes it all worth it. It's like everything else, nothing else matters. It's like, hey, you know what? And that's the best feeling in the world, because when you're caring for somebody who can't necessarily tell you what's going on, to have them to say, I love you, I appreciate you, it makes it all worth it, because it lets you know that you're doing something right.
Okay, so we want to go through the Alzheimer's resources for you, for those of you that are not familiar. And I know that this program, the CURE program, has certainly had representatives from the Alzheimer's Association in the past. We certainly want to review this with you, or perhaps you've used their resources in the past, but let's take a look at them right now. So there is a 24/7 helpline. It is an 800 number, and I really do encourage you to go there if, in fact, you feel like the internet or searching around the internet is going to cause you any more anxiety. We'd rather you just go directly to the helpline so that they can point you in the right direction. Maybe even the person speaking to you on the other end of the phone will be a welcome connection for you, other than what's going on in your household. There are some chapters in the community that offer support groups. So again, the Alzheimer's Association has a local resources page. And again, Amanda will be sharing that with you, all of these resources. And I really do encourage you to visit them, because of the fact that you might think that there's nothing in your community or no one in your community providing support. And then lo and behold, it shows up on that list, okay? Alzheimer's.org has some online resources that are quite beneficial to us. Care, safety, and when to stop driving. These are biggies to folks who are caring for others. And so it will give you some strategies for thinking about safety in your household, and how to care for an individual, how to care for yourself, and then that driving component that is always a biggie for folks. Think about ALZ Connected as well as the ALZ Navigator. And certainly we have lots of education programs available. I do them in the community. Amanda and the CURE program do an excellent job of supporting our community with lots of programs as well. So be sure to take the resources that Amanda will be sending to you, as well as some of the information I've shared here on this screen. If you've got the PowerPoint, you'll see these resources, and I really do encourage you to use them. So again, thank you for your time today. It's always a pleasure coming and working with the group here at CURE at IU Northwest. I'm going to let you take it from here, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Linda, and thank you everyone for watching.